You are listening to Peak One Sports.
Ashton with the score updates. Tony breaking down headlines. Landen bringing the hot takes. Get your sports fix one time. The Leadoff morning show. Getting you ready to go for your sports weekend. Time to hit the flow. Wake up to the buzz. Pod hits like a glove. Feel that adrenaline rush. No time.
Happy Saturday and welcome to the Leadoff on the Peak One Sports Network, brought to you by Apogee Grafix, taking your vision to new heights. Go to apogeegrafix.com and use promo code PEAK1 for 10% off your order. I'm Ashton, ready to get you ready for your sports weekend. Thank you for listening, however you are tuned in. We're going to talk MLB All-star game and a couple of other topics, but first, say goodbye to unruly behavior and hello to a well-mannered pup. The Dapper Dog Academy stands out as a top-notch canine training institute located in Cleburne and serving the DFW Metroplex. You can contact Korri and the Dapper Dog Academy on Facebook or call to schedule a consultation today. All the info is in the description box below. Again, thank you for tuning in, for listening, however you're tuned in. Now let's bring in the other side of the Leadoff Morning Show. Tony, what's going on, man?
Hey, man. I think we were thinking alike this morning with the gray shirt and the black hat.
Yeah, I know. I see you got that Rangers shirt on. Good.
It wasn't coordinated.
No. In fact, I'd rather it be the other way around. So it definitely wasn't coordinated. But you know, I'm glad we're on the same wavelength this morning because that might help. Talking a little bit of Rangers here in a minute. So the MLB All-Star game this past week, I'm surprised when the ratings came out on it. Although they're pretty concurrent. I just didn't know comparatively where they were at with everything else. But 7.4 million viewers watched the game, up 6% from a record low in 2023. I think having Paul Skeens as the NL starter definitely helped that out. But to put those numbers into perspective, the 2024 NBA Finals averaged 4.53 million viewers across the 5-game series, which I get. The Mavericks and Celtics, it was one of the lower viewed NBA Finals game series in a while, but 7.4 for an All-Star game, average 4.53 for NBA Finals. That's pretty surprising because baseball's not one of the more watched sports. It's not like the NFL. We'll bring in Landen here as well since we're talking baseball. Yeah, nearly, not quite double what the NBA Finals were. The NBA Finals were viewed at. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's not surprising. I mean, all the big stars, I think, as much as we hate to admit it, the MLB was right in all the rule changes they've made. The pitch clock doesn't seem to be an issue anymore. It is speeding the game up slightly. I think that they were right in their studies of what rules should be implemented to retain or gain more following. I mean, I think that's a prime example.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, Paul Skeens, that's something we talked about last time we were on the show, is that, hey, you need to get Paul Skeens into the All-Star game, and they did. Now, I get that baseball is the only thing going on right now. I know they kind of have unspoken rule where during All-Star weekend, there are no other sports other than like maybe the Olympics, international soccer, things like that going on. But locally, like there's no other sports going on. Nobody's going to hold drafts or any other events during All-Star weekend. So there really wasn't much to watch as a sports fan. And the All-Star game, I believe baseball was the first league to have an All-Star game. They call it the Midsummer Classic. It's definitely something I think people will run their calendars around to make sure they get to see it. Not sure how long it's been televised, but I mean, recently within the last 30 years, I think.
Yeah.
And it's something that, I mean, I watched it. I really don't watch much baseball, maybe some Rangers games here and there. So I think that has something to do with it. Uh, Opposed to, I assume, I mean, hockey was still going on. I don't know if there were many hockey games during the NBA Finals games. There's just a lot going on. Um, I guess it's the same because the All-Star game was on a Tuesday night, so it was during the week. It was prime time. Same with many of the finals games. But this, I mean, people still complain like, hey, the All-Star game needs to do something. There's a lull in it. I heard like after the fifth inning, it got pretty boring. But I think they're doing just fine, like comparatively to the Pro Bowl and other things like that. My one complaint we even talked about a few weeks ago was the uniforms. Like, just let the guys wear their own uniforms.
Yeah.
I did not like the uniforms at all. I'm not going to go quite as far to call them ugly. The one positive I did like the white uniforms were more of an off-white, closer to tan. I didn't hate that. But we got to do something with the uniforms because they wore their normal jerseys during the home run derby. This just needs to be swapped.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder when the last time that they wore each team's respective uniforms during a All-Star game. It's been a while.
it has been a while. I mean, because we talked about it, the 99, 2000, also in that area, the home run derby. That's when they had the red and blue alternating uniforms, but they wore that during the home run derby. Then they
Yeah.
wore their uniforms. At least wear their hats. Like, I think it's easier because in a league where they should be the most recognizable players because they don't wear helmets, they don't wear, their
Mhm.
face isn't really covered up. It's hard to understand who everybody is. It's not hard. It takes you an extra second. But if they were wearing their normal uniform with their normal number, it
Well,
it doesn't take
it's
at
not
all
solely
as them.
it's not completely the players represent like in the All-Star game, they're representing their team there
Yeah.
as well. And when you're playing in the game and you're not representing, like you're right, in the past, those All-Star uniforms were used for all the weekend festivities, whether it's futures games and home run
Mhm.
derbies and like that was when they wore those, and then they wore their respective home or away uniform, depending on which side they're on. Uh, I, I thought that was cool. I don't know why they went away from that in the game to each team being able to wear their and represent their team and have like an all-star patch on the
Yeah.
jersey and on the hat.
I guess they just make that much money, um, in jersey sales. So, but I still
And
think you could make those with Homer. I think you might. I'm gonna say you might make more. They obviously know they used to do it, but I think there's a little bit of exclusivity with them only wearing it in the All Star games because or in the home run derby and other events. To me, and then you can have like a media day where everybody takes pictures with their jerseys on,
yeah.
and you can still sell them. Like, I don't know.
Well, the
I think
positive
one
part
year it wasn't terrible, but I think one year they still kept the style. I want to say where like the Yankees were still white with pinstripes or whatever, but they changed up the colors where the NL and the AL each team respective team matched in colors with they still had like a big logo of the team on there, which wasn't terrible, but I mean I like it to stick out. Just one team wears gray, the other team wears white, and go with it.
yeah. Well, the
Uh,
positive part is that the All-Star game, All-Star break means that now the season really heats up. This is
yeah,
when a lot of fans really do start kicking in and locking in on their teams in these playoff races.
yeah, for sure. The proverbial second half, which I like that it's a little bit past halfway point, so you can start, looking at because really once you get through July, you get the August and September run, which is really when the standings matter.
Yeah.
Real quick, Paul Skeens, I thought looked really good. We got that Skeens Judge matchup was pretty cool because you're probably not ever going to see that except in a World Series. I guess like every team plays every team now, the schedule, but you have to have it match up where Judge isn't hurt, that Skeens pitches. I don't know if the Yankees and Pirates have already played, but it looks like this is going to be the one time we see it outside. I mean, Pittsburgh's probably not making the World Series, but Yankees could. But I like that. That's something I can get behind and kind of be a fan of. Not being a fan of either of those teams, but just being a fan of baseball. One of the young pitchers. I mean, Judge is still pretty young, but one of the probably going to be all-time great hitters, at least in this generation, with what looks like he could be an all-time great pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, you know, that was one thing Landon mentioned the last show we were on is trying to get Skeens in to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Seemed like it was going to be far-fetched, but it was good to see him there, and he much deserving to be there as well.
Yeah, undefeated with like a 1.8 ERA, something like that. He looked really good. It was like every time he threw a pitch, they throw up another graphic. The youngest to be in this situation, the tied for the youngest, the least amount of starts before starting an All-Star game. It's just like he's already making history by getting to this point. And I know, like,
And a guy a year ago that was walking on a college campus.
seriously, yeah. And I hope it's not like a Strasburger type of deal. I know today we like these young kids are getting Tommy John's like nothing. And he's definitely a power thrower. So hopefully he can hold up. Hopefully it's not like a 3 to 5 year deal and then he's just fighting injury the rest of his career. But we will see. Let's move over to the Rangers trade deadline moves. I did want to ask Landen a question here. Hopefully I'm not putting you too much on the spot, but some people saying the Rangers should be sellers at the trade deadline with they're under 500. They have a lot of a lot of pitchers that they could trade off and still keep a competent rotation, and then get some pieces back and retool for next year. But thing is, they went 7-3 going into the All-Star break. They were just I think they're still 5 games back. I know they got blown out by Baltimore last night, but they were about 5 games back in the AL West. And they're getting a lot of guys back from the IL. So, Landon, what do you think the Rangers should do at the trade deadline? Should they be buyers or sellers?
I mean, it's very like you have to take a gamble with it because I mean last year they had a way worse record.
Yeah.
And you end up sneaking your way to the playoffs. And they were buyers that year.
Yeah.
So if you think that you already have a better record, you can repeat of what last year is. That you can, I think you go buy again. But I think the smarter decision out of it would be to sell and see what you can get out of guys that you're not using. I mean, I think we're one of the only teams that have more starters than games that we can start in a week.
That would be the more conservative way. You do have the roster built where being sellers doesn't mean like, hey, you're selling out maybe for this year, but you still have a chance because you could go sell a couple of those pitchers now that you're getting guys back and still try to compete for a playoff spot. That doesn't mean you're done. But that does set you up for the long term where maybe you can get some prospects back or just make it not so top heavy because they basically have 7 or 8 starters. I know a couple of those should be like your spot starter along reliever guys. But they really do have a lot of starters.
And this Rangers team has a young lineup. So, you're not all in this year. You don't have to be. Like Landon said, if you sneak your way in again, great. If not, continue to build for the future next season, the season after that.
And if you're optimistic about DeGrom, which I think you have to be because he still has a few years, you're still going to pay him regardless. That if you were sellers, see what happens this year, but really let's prepare ourselves for next year because in all reality, if we stayed healthy, we'd be probably a little bit over 500 right now, right in the thick of things. That just keep DeGrom down. Like if he's ready to go in September, like let's start getting him back in the role. But I mean, I don't think you're going to have, even if everything goes well, I don't think you're going to have DeGrom for a playoff run anyways at his top level. Because even when he comes back, I mean, ideally for a playoff run, you want him to come back sometime mid-August, start getting him back into the roll of things, and then build his stamina up. But you have to treat him completely different to make sure you don't have any other setbacks like you did last year. So I think the pitchers are, I mean, I think the Rangers are going to be buyers in the sense of if they find the right deal where they're not giving up a lot. Like, I don't think they're going to go all out to make this roster a World Series roster right now. I mean, because really you're getting some things back now anyways. Josh Young's about to come back. You're starting to have a healthy lineup where you're already, your lineup theoretically should already be better than it has most of the season. So you're able to make a run. But I mean, they got blown out by Baltimore last night. If they get swept there, if they just don't compete this week, I think the trade deadline's like in 8 or 9 days. Maybe it's not necessarily being sellers, but just retooling because you have a surplus of starting pitching. But a couple of names here the Rangers could go after. Michael Kopech, the White Sox. He's a young pitcher. The White Sox obviously are rebuilding. That's something. And then who will probably be on a lot of teams' lists is Mason Miller, who young star closer who obviously the Athletics do not need. They're not going to need. I wouldn't imagine they would need for a while.
They're in a complete rebuild, so
yeah, there's no reason to be a closer at this point unless he has aspirations of being a starting pitcher or something, and you're working your way to that. But I think Mason Miller will be dealt, and I think he's going to be on a lot of teams' lists. He'll probably be pretty expensive, but that's something that could help the Rangers. They've had late inning bullpen issues a lot of the year. If they are buyers, that's something. There's a couple of players they could go after. Anybody? I mean, Landen, do you have any specific names that you know of that the Rangers should go after?
No specific people, but I think that in the past, when the at trade deadlines that they've and through off season that they've gone after the right position, wrong people. I think that obviously, like, the pitching was a problem last season, but they went and got starters. You need bullpen guys. Like, the starters weren't giving up the 6-run leads late in innings.
Yeah.
You needed the guys in the bullpen for that.
And traditionally, when you say a buyer or seller, a buyer is somebody who sells prospects to get win now guys, and sellers are the opposite. But the Rangers could just be guys that, kind of reorganize where they're not selling, or, I mean, they're pretty much buying, but they're not really selling, that they're going to trade a starting pitcher away to get a couple of bullpen guys maybe. Yeah. Now, I'm sure there'll be prospects involved in that as well. But, if they feel confident that DeGrom will be ready to go soon, trade one of these spot starter types, or maybe just leave one of those and, trade one of your more successful starters and get a couple of bullpen guys. Because I think the lineup is going to be fine because you have guys coming back. I think things will take care of themselves. Because really, it's like you're just going to replace. If you're trying to replace the lineup, you're just going to replace guys with guys who've already been successful. They're in slumps or having down years or whatever, and you're not going to give up on guys that have had, especially young guys that have had successful runs, all because of a bad year. But, maybe it works out long-term better for the Rangers because they're set up to have a long run of being contenders if they work things out right and they prepare for the future. And I think going into this time last year, we would have had the same mindset. Like, dude, 3 years from now, we should be competing for a World Series. We kind of got spoiled and the Rangers ran out and won a World Series. So we're thinking, okay, we're here, when they just made a ridiculous run. And I think they're an above average team when healthy. and that they're going to be competing for a playoff spot in general. But I think they still need some more pieces before we can really say they're year in and year out World Series contenders.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We've been saying it for months. Do not bet with your gut. Check out Betalytics and get help making your bet picks. Betalytics uses AI algorithms to run the numbers and make your most accurate picks possible. Euro Soccer has just gone live on their site, so use promo code PEAK1 for 25% off when you sign up today. Go to betalytics.com to start betting smarter. All right, Landon, me and Tony talked about this a little bit pre-show. College Football 25 release. I think it just came out for most people yesterday. I've had access to it for a couple. I pre-ordered and paid the extra money. I was kind of a dummy. It was worth it. I'm not regretting it, but when you think about it, it's like, oh, I just paid for a couple of days extra access. I know I got some other stuff, but I haven't even messed with the deluxe edition stuff. Really, I have some other benefits I have to check out. But after Friday, when it came out, they had over 2.8 million users playing the game. I don't have what they've made on the game so far, but they did make over $200 million just in pre-orders. Not to mention any online play revenue. I don't mess with a lot of that stuff, but I know you have your pay-to-play extra stuff that some people use. I don't mess with online much. I'm not that good to really compete against other people. But what are your thoughts on the game? I know y'all have not got it yet. I think y'all should. Pushing y'all to get it just so we can play. We can renew that Texas A&M rivalry on there. It's a really solid game. I think they took the best parts of, like, you pick your favorite college football game, and you take this aspect of it. And I think they combined a lot of it, and it's a really cool game. Lena, is that something that y'all are going to get, that you have any interest in getting?
Yeah.
I know
before
your time a little bit. It's not as nostalgic to you as it is for me and Tony, where we owned almost every year. We would buy the college football video game. It's a little different for you, but I think you can still enjoy it as well. It's definitely not the same as Madden at all. It's completely different.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's a lot different. I do like the stadium aspect. Like when you're playing in different stadiums, like if you're playing at I know Kyle Fields, a hard one to play at because of the crowd effects.
Yeah,
I think that is a good aspect of
it. That's the realistic part of it. Like in Madden, I mean, it's still
pretty generic.
It's pretty generic. There are stadiums that get louder than others for sure, but they're a lot closer than when you're talking college. But they don't take that into effect. I mean, I know when you have a crappy team, you have less people in the crowd on Madden, but it's just not the same. So the intros to each game pretty much go the same way each time. They start with the guys running out of the tunnel, but the commentary is going to be different. They're going to say different things. I had no clue. I was just messing around. I want to play different teams, and I had Texas State and UTSA play, which I assumed was a rivalry game. Just because they're close together, but it's like the battle on I-35, and they had the graphic up on the screen when I went on there, and it was really cool. I had no idea. These are two no-name teams from a national perspective, and they have their own game graphic on here. They have I like that depending on what teams you pick, whether it's day, night, whatever, they have like 4 or 5 different commentating teams. So, which is pretty realistic because Kirk Herbstreit's not going to be calling a Texas State UTSA game unless they're like both ranked or something.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool. You get some not no name announcers, pretty popular ones, but you're not getting the prime time announcing. Like in Madden, it would always be the same guys. Previous college football games, for the most part, it'd be the same guys. But no, it's really cool. I like to mess around and do conference realignment. So I made like an all Texas conference, and I just mess around with ridiculous stuff. I think it's a fun. I think they made a good job of doing Dynasty mode, kind of like a sandbox type platform where you could just do whatever the crap you want.
Yeah,
messing around with those, control different teams. The uniform selections are pretty ridiculous. I haven't been able to play like a lot of teams. I haven't messed around with Oregon yet, but I looked at Colorado's. I did start a dynasty with UCF, and they have a lot of cool uniform combos. I think that's going to be my favorite is some of the uniform combos. I messed around with Texas A&M a little bit playing against them, but I haven't even delved deep into what their all their uniforms are because I know they have a lot as well.
And Arch Manning's in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a last minute thing, like a few days before he opted in. So he is in the game. So I messed around and played Quinn Ewers the first half and Arch Manning the second half. I was saying,
One? Which one?
in the game, Arch Manning is much better. I think he's funner to play with. I think Quinn Ewers, he's been there a couple of years. He's kind of tired out. For a video game, I'd rather just have Arch Manning.
Yeah. I think most of Texas would rather have Arch Manning.
Sarkisian did say they're going to need both of those guys to make a run this year. I don't know exactly what that means. If that means, hey, Quinn Ewers has had some injury concern, obviously being injured a couple of times the last couple of years, but Arch, and he's the second string. I know Arch Manning was like the third string last year. He's in the second string, at least in the video game. I haven't heard anything specific on that. You still have preseason to go, and we do have switching gears a little bit. NFL training camps are coming up. Some teams have already reported to training camp. So next week we're probably talking Cowboys a lot on that.
That's exciting. This is an exciting time getting towards the end of summer.
Yeah, a lot of sports are about to pop up. It's going to be a lot of content to talk about. And this year, it's kind of a dull year for Cowboys fans because there hasn't been a lot to happen.
Yeah.
But a lot to talk about. CeeDee Lamb, is he going to hold out? I don't know. We don't know that. Micah Parsons has a contract deal coming up. Obviously, Dak Prescott going the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
Making it a little complicated that if the Cowboys just let him go, he's still on the books for $60 million next year.
Wow.
So a lot to talk about. Maybe we'll have some of those contract things figured out by next week, but I'm sure there are gonna be endless stories to talk about. Okay, let's keep moving on, and we're on a time crunch here a little bit. Yesterday they played Arena Bowl 33 in East Rutherford, New Jersey. It tells you, like, I had no idea till last night when I was texting you guys that this was the championship game, the Arena Bowl. Remember back in the day, we'd watch a lot of arena football games, but didn't even know.
I guess it's not televised as much. Is that?
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen games here and there. I don't know if they've, if I just happen to see it, but I just don't think they market it well. Maybe they do it. A lot of those, I don't want to call it a gimmicky sport. Like I compare it to ultimate frisbee and things like that.
Yeah.
Because it's not really developmental football. It kind of is. They use it as developmental football, but it's completely different. But I know, like ultimate frisbee, they have their league on YouTube. They have that may be here. I don't know where you watch that. I'm sure it's televised somewhere on normal television. But the Billings Outlaws beat the Albany Firebirds 46-41. But what made this game special was that it was played inside of a shopping mall in New Jersey. Now, Kenny, aka Reckless, who does a show here on Peak One, lives very close to this mall, and said he's been there plenty of times, and makes a little more sense. This is where the ice rink was, so that's basically where they play. How they play arena football, and roughly the same size as a
similar to the mall here in Arlington. The Parks Mall has a rink in the middle of the mall,
and so that gave me an idea. Which they may have already had this idea. I don't know. This is a great way to keep American malls alive. Rather than having arena football teams playing in like NBA arenas and smaller arenas, have them play at malls. I think people would go. Like if somebody said, hey, the mall here locally, there's going to be an arena football game. Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah.
Right?
That would be cool. It's the same size as a rink. That's what they play on.
Roughly. I don't know if it's exactly the same size, but it's close enough. It's definitely bigger than NBA court, I think, because if you look when they play, it almost has that rounded oval look, and then they just square it off in the end zones. So 50 yards. I think I want to say a hockey rink's a little bit smaller than that, but you can kind of. I mean, obviously it worked. It worked out here.
That's really
and-
cool.
and
Do you
it's-
imagine being able to watch one of those games like that?
Yeah,
with
they
all the
had a
crowds?
couple. I mean, they had some seats set up, but you look in the upper level, it's just like normal shopping.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're just looking over, kind of. And maybe it's not like, hey, all their home games are here, whatever. I think you should just have like a traveling deal, kind of like they had. What's the NHL do? The New Year's Day outdoor game or whatever. Like
Mhm.
maybe just once a year or once each team has one game a year playing at a shopping mall. See, I don't know Dallas's team in the arena. I think it's the Allen Americans in the Arena Football League. I know Frisco Fighters are the IFL, the Indoor Football League. That's where Chris Robb played. Not where, that's the league Chris Robb played in here on Peak One.
Yeah.
So we used to have the Desperados in the Arena Football League. I want to say the Arena Football League team for Dallas is the Allen Outlaws. Or Allen Americans. No, Allen Americans is hockey. Allen Outlaws. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, that's
One
definitely
that Terrell Owens played 4 years ago.
yes. Yeah, Allen. I think it's the Outlaws, but yeah,
And is
Terrell
he
Owens.
part owner of that as well? Or was?
He was. That was kind of his deal, that he became owner and he was going to play on the team. Because obviously they can't pay him the salary he needs to make. I don't know. I'll have to double
So
check
they
on that.
offered him ownership in a
Yeah, I think that's
as part
what,
of this.
off topic for a second, that's what they're going to do with a Las Vegas team, basketball team, NBA team. I know you really can't. I don't think a player can be part owner right now, but I think that's what we're going to do with LeBron. LeBron's the final season in the NBA is going to be the first season of whatever the Las Vegas team is. He's going to play and either be part owner, or he has a stipulation where once he retires, he's going to be in the ownership group anyways. That's what I feel like might happen.
Yeah.
All right. And last topic, been doing it a little bit here and there. Loser of the week to me goes to Trevor Bauer. He's down in Mexico playing for the Diablos Rojos del Mexico team. Apologize for the mispronunciation if I did. But he plays for that team of the Mexican Baseball League, and he has contracted cholera.
What is it?
So fun for that. Trevor Bauer has cholera.
What is that?
It's I know it's kind of serious. I don't think it's that serious now. I remember back like in the 30s or the 20s, it killed a bunch of people, but it's a loose term of food poisoning. I think I know anybody in the medical field would be like, no, that's not what it is. But basically, that's the symptoms of it. You kind of get basically food poisoning to me. But I assume he drank some bad water, ate some bad food. It being American, I was just saying, American digestive system is not fit to drink Mexican water, I guess. Nothing down on Mexico. It's just our we're spoiled up here. And they tell you when you go to Mexico, don't drink anything. It's not bottled water or anything. Food washed with tap water. I assume that's what's done. And maybe that's Trevor Bauer's fault for playing hardball this offseason, trying to get a contract. And so he had to go play down in Mexico for the Diablos Rojos del Mexico team.
Yeah. He's so fun to watch though on TikTok. Landen and I talked about this several times the past few weeks, man. Like he's so funny and it's so entertaining just to watch his TikToks. I mean, he goes up, he calls his pitches, he's telling guys what pitches he's gonna throw.
Yeah.
The dude's just a competitor, man, and he's fun to watch. I mean,
and it's a
shame he's
shame
not on an MLB roster.
Yeah, and I say it's his fault. I don't even know the whole story. I think he had opportunities, and he wanted more money, I think, is the main thing. But I know for a while, it's like, why isn't Trevor Bauer getting signed anywhere? I think he kind of got. I know that the teams can't. Similar what they did to Colin Kaepernick, supposedly, they can't kind of like be against him and just nobody sign him. But I don't know what the deal was, but he couldn't get signed anywhere. I think it was more maybe some of his his antics, but like you said, that it's pretty entertaining. I don't find it annoying in the sense like um, a lot of players in that situation, but yeah, I don't know. I think he's very talented to not be on an MLB roster. It's kind of ridiculous. The longer he went without being signed, I'm like, telling the Rangers just pick him up. He's very talented. You could probably get him for cheap, I assume, but I don't know.
Landon, do you know what his contract, like kind of what he would be?
He said multiple times that he's willing to sign for the league minimum, like whatever the lowest amount of money that they can pay him
for his years of service.
But he's been not really necessarily blackballed by the coaches and players.
Blackballed, that's what I was looking for.
More by ownership. Like everybody, obviously, like the players, like you want.
Why though? Like, is he that much of like a locker room cancer or whatever?
I mean, from what I've heard, obviously I watch his videos, so I only hear it from his side.
Yeah.
But I mean, his teammates seem to like him in his videos in Mexico. Obviously coaches seem to like him. It doesn't seem like he was a problem on the Dodgers. It just seems like the ownership's not willing to take a risk at him. And then because I mean, when you have a player like he's very passionate when he plays and has a lot of antics on the field, and it just seems like the ownership isn't willing to take the chance.
And that's what I've known kind of from him, not really following the storyline, because I didn't know he was going to even go play down in the Mexican League. I figured somebody would sign him. That he does have some antics. But it's like I've never compared him, like bring up Terrell Owens again to a situation like that. Like obviously he's not that talented as Terrell Owens was, but to me, Owens had a lot bigger issues than what I see from Trevor Bauer. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't follow the story that close in the offseason. I just thought it was crazy nobody was signing him.
Yeah, I'm not aware of him being a locker room issue.
Like antics are antics. I don't know. Like I know you can see him on TikTok, and yeah, those are kind of crazy. But I feel like if he got on an MLB roster, they could say, "Hey, just."
Well, like Landen said, his teammates love him. I mean, he doesn't seem like he has the teammates. I mean, he goes to those guys. He's working with them. I mean, you see him standing up for those guys. He hasn't been playing there that long to, if somebody clowns on his guy, he's going to go after him.
Yeah.
So it seems like he's very protective of his guys.
Yeah. Tough for him. Loser of the week contracting cholera. That's not something. I mean, I've heard of cholera. I just know it's similar to food poisoning in some sense or the other. But
it's like food poisoning plus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely a lot worse than food poisoning. I mean, this was a deal that late 1800s, early 1900s definitely killed people before we had really understood our health system got a lot better understanding the human body. But that's kind of a scary word to, like, we're kind of making fun of it. Like, I hope he's good. I hope everything's fine. I'm sure he'll come out of it. It's just something he's got to deal with now. It'd be terrible if anything bad happened to him while we're making fun of him. But that's just something you don't like in Mexico. That's probably not a big deal. I mean, not a big deal, not a big story.
Yeah.
Although most Mexicans probably don't get cholera because they're more used to their digestive systems are more used to the diet down there as Americans are. I assume that's how you contract. I know it's a digestive system issue. But prayers for Trevor Bauer. Now that we made fun of you, we hope you're okay. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of the Leadoff. However you're tuning in, hit that like button if you like the show. If not, hit it twice. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a great Saturday with Tony and Landen. I'm Ashton. Have a great weekend. See you guys later.